Hi everyone, I'm Father Scott Vanderveer, and it's the first day of school this week. The first day of school. You remember that feeling? You're probably feeling it. If you're like me, there has never been a Labor Day part of September that hasn't reminded you of your childhood start of school. And I am so grateful this year to now be the pastor of St. Mary's Church and SMSA Regional Catholic School, which means that I now get to be a part of the first day of school in a way that I have not since 2008. That's the last year that I was a Catholic school teacher at St. Pius School in Loudonville, down near Albany. And before that, I had a number of first days of school in a row because I was a Catholic high school teacher at Cristo Rey Boston High School and spent 5 years teaching high school theology to 9th and 11th graders there. And then when I moved back to upstate New York, I taught for 2 years at St. Pius School in Albany before I wound up going to the seminary and getting involved in this business. So what comes to mind during the first day of school? I find myself thinking of a conversation I had with Father Ed Columbus, the pastor of my parents' church at the time, their home parish, a wonderful mentor, a priest I really admire and look up to. And he said to me, I think most of us have a homily that represents what our ministry is mostly about as priests. He said, I would say that most priests could take the theme of 90% of their homilies and boil it down to one sentence. And he told me that his sentence was, we are the body of Christ. He said, if I were to try to boil all of my homilies down to one phrase, one sum of what I believe and what I want people to know from the ministry that I have, I would think it is, we are the body of Christ. He said, as I look back over my 50 years of priesthood, it keeps coming back to that again and again and again. And I have done a lot of thinking about that since we had that conversation. And I'm quite sure that the theme of my first 8.5 years of priesthood has been, life is a school and love is the lesson. We are in a great big school called life, and it's always in session. And the lesson, no matter what we are studying, is always the same. Love. Life is a school, and the lesson is love. I really believe that with all of my heart. And that's why I am so excited to be entering this new phase of my life and of my ministry here at St. Mary's in Glens Falls, where I get to be involved in what essentially is life school in a very formal sense. Catholic education is the place where no one has to hide the real purpose of education: to develop our human potential so that our souls can do what God created them to do, so that our lives can be in perfect alignment, not with our ambitions that our personality has or the dreams that someone else has for us, but that we can be in perfect alignment with God's plan for our lives, a plan that is as unique as a fingerprint for each one of us. There was a great Jesuit theologian and scientist named Father Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. He was a physicist who unlocked the mysteries of science and infused them with theological truth that was just so incredibly expanding for me and for so many other people who've read his writing and have learned about all that he got to share with others. One of the things he said that I know is true is that we so often in religion act as though we are human beings that are having a spiritual experience. But he said that's actually not true. We're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings that God has chosen to have a human experience. We are God's children first. And the experience we're having as human beings is an expression of the fact that we are God's children. We were chosen by God first, and it was God choosing us that made us human, that called us here for this time in history. So that's what's so exciting about Catholic education, is that we know that each of the students at SMSA and at all Catholic schools are spiritual beings, God's children, who are having a human experience. And so as they take classes here, as they go through kindergarten, first, second, third, all the way through 8th grade at SMSA, we never take our eye off the ball. We never forget that life is a school and love is the lesson, that we are all spiritual first. And whatever other things we're going to learn, whatever our academic goals are, whatever our future career goals are, whatever our extracurricular interests are, whatever our talents that we want to develop in music or art or in athletics, all of that is at the service of what God has dreamed for us, of the purpose that we were created for. So I am thrilled that although I don't get to be in the classroom the way that I once was when I was known as Mr. V, now as Father Scott, I get to work with our wonderful principal, Patty Balmer, and get to work with all the wonderful faculty here at SMSA and work toward the goal of excellent, thorough, New York State certified education that is also geared completely and totally, from the beginning of the day to the end, for the good of the students' souls. One of the things that I know is true about Catholic education that I've gotten to see firsthand is that it elongates a child's childhood. A middle school age student at SMSA, somebody who's in grade 6 or 7 or 8, is much more able to be a child in that environment, in the environment that we create for them here, than they would be if they were in any other situation. They are watched and monitored and nurtured and looked after in a spiritual and caring pastoral way that allows any parent, any caregiver, any guardian to know that this child is going to be able to have a childhood. This school experience is going to safeguard their children's childhood. The lessons that we want them to learn at home, the values that we want them to be infused with, those are going to be communicated here at this school. We are going to be living the gospel values that Jesus speaks of. We're going to be teaching and living the Beatitudes here in school. So it changes everything if a young person is being steeped like a tea bag in the teachings and the values of Jesus Christ and the way that he taught us how to live on this planet. His path is the way that makes the most sense because we're spiritual beings that are having a human experience. His leadership, his ability to point out the way, the truth, and the life is what makes him the master teacher. And all of us are faculty in his school. So as we begin a new school year, whatever your memories are of education, whether it is the nervousness of the first week of school, or the excitement, or the feeling of having maybe a new backpack or a fresh haircut, or whatever else, maybe it was the sneakers that you wore, meeting your teacher for the first time, getting into a routine, whatever it is that is coming to mind for you when you think of the first week of school, take some of that empathic, loving energy and direct it toward our students as they get ready for the week ahead. And pray for Mrs. Balmer and for all of our faculty and staff as we get ready to once again welcome students back to one of the greatest gifts God has given us, the gift of a Catholic education. May God bless you all.